Cracking. Tell us a little bit about, a little bit about yourself and what you're up to in your day to day.
Um, about me, okay, interesting. I am 24-year-old HR professional. I've been in recruitment for the past 2 years. I've spent some time um, studying around the employment space. So I did a law degree, I guess earlier on in my life, my short-lived life. Did law, did employment law, really enjoyed that. Came out, didn't really know what I wanted to do. Ended up in sales. Loved sales. I highly recommend it to anyone who's a bit of a chatterbox and has some confidence. And then went into HR, went into recruitment, going back into HR, a good understanding of diversity and inclusion, especially from the recruitment perspective. And in my next role, I'll be exploring it more from a proactive project-based perspective.
Okay.
So that's kind of me from like a job wise kind of thing. And recently I started a Black networking group called Amplify, which essentially has been created to inspire young Black professionals to do what they want to do, to explore what they want to explore, to grow, to plan, and to essentially grow within their space. So that's me as a
Awesome.
whole.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So what led you down this journey, this rabbit hole, this path? Like, how did you know that you'd be interested in this space? Did it happen organically, or did you always want to be in this field?
So I wanted to be a lawyer
Okay.
for a very, very long time. And I obviously just went down that path for a while, and studied law. I discovered in my first year of university that I did not want to be a lawyer, to everyone's disappointment, and carried on. Thought there was one thing for me. I wanted to complete that degree. I had a teacher who didn't think I was going to get onto the degree, so I was like, no, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna have a law degree, and I do. So thank God for that. But in my third year of university, I came across employment law, which was my highest performing module. I really enjoyed it. But my main thing when it came to employment law was wanting to delve into how did this work practically? So when we have, for example, the Equality Act, how does that work? How, from a HR perspective, how does that work? So, because from a legal perspective, I get it, but how does it actually practically work? And I think my main thing was, most of us, especially if you're in the corporate space, end up spending so much time at work. And I wanted to be part of that department, whatever it was. And I didn't actually know at the time. Whatever it was that actually made it better to work, and made it a little bit more bearable to do something that we're going to do for 60 years. So
60 years.
It's a bit mad, isn't it? But yeah, so that was my main thing. I think studying employment law was the kind of thing that opened the gate for me, and allowed me to be able to do a little bit more research to understand what I actually want to do.
Perfect. That's interesting you said that, though, about the whole 60 years thing. Do you see a job as a career? Do you see it as something that you're looking for something that you would want to do for that length of time? Or do you think you might chop and change? Or are you thinking, some people are like, I'll work really hard for 10 years and then I'll go and I'll move to Mallorca and I'll build my castle there? Like, how are you thinking about your kind of career journey? What are your kind of goals?
So me personally, I'm at the very, very beginning of my career. And it is a career for me. It's not just a job.
Right.
So for me, I would like this to become something where I'm able to work as a consultant, and I am able to freelance and help small businesses in the D&I space.
What's D&I stand for?
Diversity and inclusion.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, that's good to actually define that. But yeah, so that's the like big vision.
Right.
But I do want to work my way up the ranks from the HR perspective, within as a D&I specialist. Hopefully be a chief of diversity one day, and then after that go into freelancing and being able to work when I want to work. And I think it's really important. Like, that question's really good, and something that everyone should ask themselves. Where essentially do you want to go, and create that roadmap. Create those goals and see how you can hit them, because the world right now, there's so many different paths that you can take that I'm not going to say that you have to stick to one path, because life throws amazing opportunities at you, and if something comes your way, definitely turn and look at it and evaluate where it could take you. But when you're young, I definitely think it's important to create some sort of path for yourself, just so that you don't end up just working and coming home with your salary and just paying your bills and putting your head down, because I think you can get stuck in that. That ends up a bit mundane.
For real. I mean, the number one, I hear now that for kids at school, the number one profession they wanna be now, the number one career they want to have. In my day, I'm sure it was footballers, but now it's YouTubers. So I'm just gonna try and up my YouTube game, and that's my career plan in my later years. I'm just gonna be a granddad on YouTube. That's my plan. I don't know from a HR perspective if that's gonna work, but you know, we can talk about that later.
Don't see why it shouldn't.
Well, I mean, of course, it's the wild, wild west out there, mate. And the competition is so high that it might be difficult. But on that note, this idea of competition, and from a HR perspective, you know, a lot of the times when we're in the workplace, especially in corporate spaces, it can feel like we're competing. You know, there is kind of competition going on. What could we, I'm looking for insights from you, basically, some little bit of nuggets that we might not know because we're not in that space. We know that HR is important. We know that, you know, it often is the last resort. You go to HR when you're having issues. That might be kind of the essence of what most people know about HR. And then you can get into the whole debate of, is the HR there for the organization, or is the HR there for the people? I know some businesses that have rebranded their HR department as the people department and things like that, to give that emphasis back to it being about the employees. But what do you think? What have you noticed? And what do you think ideally HR should be? Without getting into too much trouble with any
It highly depends on the company that you work for. So you may join a company that's got a people focus. A good indicator is if they're called the people management team, or things like that. That it at least means they're trying to have that people focus. HR will always serve the business. Everything has got to do with making money, but sometimes your well-being will actually make the company more money. So the happier you are, the likelihood is you'll actually make the company more money. So depending on it depends on the industry. So for example, if you are in catering, for example, so like David Lloyd or Baxter Story, did I say David Lloyd? That's not the right company anyway. One of these like catering companies, but that go into different spaces and provide food, whatever. And you have all the chefs and you have the busboys and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of people who are trainable. It's considered to be low skill, and it's fast turnover. So you'll find in those kind of companies, your HR department are very unlikely to be people focused. That's just that they might try, but at the end of the day, main focus is trying to get things moving as fast as possible and making sure there's as little drama as possible. Those sort of companies have the most like cases when it comes to dismissals, because you have people who aren't necessarily as highly trained from a managerial point of view, because you have such a high volume of staff. So many people in 0-hour contracts. It's really hard to manage all those different kinds of people. So you will find that unless you just find yourself a really ace team on a really good site and you really enjoy it, there'll be other sites that are just like, nah, their turnover is ridiculous. And I've worked for that type of company before. Wasn't that enjoyable for me. A lot of employee relations, And from my perspective, very cold, and it can be like that. One thing that I would highly suggest: companies will pump loyalty to you and make you feel like you have to be loyal. You don't. You don't have to be loyal to anything. Them giving you an extra day of holiday after a few years of service, what is that really? At the end of the day, don't tell my new employer this. But when it comes down to it, it's about how does a company serve you, and that's what your perspective has to be all the time. How does the company serve you? And if you have a question, ask HR. Everything should be confidential. If they're not, you find out, leave. Genuinely leave.
Wow.
that sort of space isn't going to be one that cultivates you, that grows you, that allows you to be able to have development. And so if you have a strong HR team, that's what they're going to be able to do for you. They're going to be able to sit down with you and help you carve out your career within the company. That's what a good HR team will be able to do for you. So if you're able to step into that and find a company that will do that with you, that's the kind of space you'll cultivate and grow. And even when you do eventually leave them, you'll find that it's for growth rather than because you were disgruntled. So
no,
I
awesome.
hope that answers the question.
Perfect.
Rambling a bit.
Answer. And who does the HR person go to when the HR person has an issue?
Don't have issues. Why should you have an issue?
You would never have an issue, no?
It's not that you'll never have an issue. But it's definitely a difficult thing to navigate. Leave.
Why
like
would
if
HR...
when it comes to escalating things, you speak to your manager. So your manager might be the HR manager. Okay, and if they're the ones bullying you, for example, okay, so they're a manager, and that's how you lose jobs. I'm not gonna lie, that's how you lose jobs. But like, there's certain departments that are like that. Like at the end of the day, a lot of, depending on the kind of company that you're in, you might speak to your manager and you're out the door. It's life, isn't it? That's why some people are trying to go down the self-employed route.
We got Gus here saying they will replace you after 20 minutes of your funeral. Good question. HR move like gods on earth. They answer to nobody. Is that true? Are HR like, in organizations I've worked for, I do see like there's a certain trio of individuals that are kind of untouchables. You've got the directors who tend to be untouchables. Then you've got the finance department, because really we know finance really run the show. And then you've got HR. They're like the trilogy, the trinity in a workplace, right? Those kind of three, whether it's individuals, whether it's departments, they do move like they are like, we run things. Would you agree with that? Do you feel like you run things, Joelle? Do you feel like you're running things?
It depends on the company. Genuinely, it depends on the company and how they want to how they want to relate with the employees. So, for example, if you have a company that's doing a lot of takeovers, for example, that HR team is very stressed out. For one, and they are very much in fear of making mistakes, and are likely to you can lose your job very fast. If you mess up someone's TP, if you mess up someone's transfer, you're losing money for the company. So you can lose your job when it comes to that kind of stuff. If you're in a company that's a little bit more settled, you don't deal with as many takeovers, you're doing a bit of onboarding, you're a good company, and you're focusing on project work, and the majority of the time you're just trying to build up proposals to take to the directors to be like, actually, I think it'd be nice for us to do this, and this is how it would balance the company. Then that's where you get more, not even an untouchable thing, but it's like if they're that HR team is bringing value each time, each project that they bring in is bringing
Yeah.
value.
Yeah.
You do start to feel a bit. I can understand why people would start to feel a bit like, yeah, like I'm secure here. If you're providing something, but then I feel like that can sit in nearly any department. So, for example, I've worked in tech my whole career, short-lived career, but my whole career.
Yeah.
And devs, if they're good devs, if they're strong devs, you can have devs that have a monopoly within the company of knowledge.
Strong who? What's that word you use?
Developers.
Devs. All right, you're fooling us today. All right, cool. Right, okay, cool. Yeah, go on. Strong developers.
You can have people that literally, for example, I've worked with a company who have a legacy system, all written in C and C++, which is a really old coding language.
Right.
So there's literally several developers in the company that they will walk around and do whatever. Because it's like
they're the only ones who know the old language.
You're the only one that knows the language.
Imagine.
So like, and imagine if you're a small company and that's going on.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
you're living it. You're living the life.
Yeah,
but
listen.
the HR department, if they're smart, will have predicted that and been like, we need to do some recruitment, or we need to like shake things up a bit in terms of tech. Let's do some retraining, move to more up-to-date tech, move these guys to more up-to-date tech, so they're not the only ones that know about this.
Don't get me started.
So,
these people, these old guard, who know the old language, What? These people, I tell ya, these old codgers, they just won't move over.
To be honest, a lot of companies are finding themselves in that predicament. When I was in my last role, we were recruiting for a lot of C devs that know other languages, so that we can just push some of these people out.
Listen, like you're preaching now. You're preaching, and do you know what was so cool? I think COVID has done that a lot for us as well. Because in a lot of places it's like, oh sorry, yeah, we would like to do things the way we've always done it, but unfortunately we've got to move with the times now, geez. So that's been really quite cool. That's what I've enjoyed. Some of the old thinking being able to without no one to blame, because you can't blame me now. You got to blame, it was beyond me. Take it up with the big man. It's beyond me. All right, cool. So this is really interesting. So what are some of the things that we should be thinking of? Like, let's say we take on a new role, from a HR perspective, or even from an organization perspective, because you'd be privy to some other conversations that are being had in the company. What are some of the kind of the insights or thoughts that we could be thinking about, or intelligent questions we could be asking that resonates with kind of higher leadership? Because as I said earlier, in the workplace, sometimes I know ideally you just want to shine at what you do, right? You just want to do what you do to the best of your ability, but it also is still a bit of a competition really as well, because everyone wants to be recognized for their work. Everyone wants ideally more money, more promotion, more recognition. And again, different people have different motivators, but from your level and what you've seen, what are some of the things that we could be aware of just to, what's the word? Like, just present ourselves in the best way in organizations to kind of ensure, or at least give ourselves the best opportunity of settling in well and also progressing well.
So one word of advice I'd give is don't ignore that CEO letter at the beginning of the year where they write the aims of the company and what they want to achieve, blah blah. Understand how a company works. So you have your board members. They obviously are invested in the company and have high stakes in the company. You have your CEO and the C-suite. Then you have your directors, maybe some MDs, depending on how the company works, and it all travels down. The initial dream or vision for the year it all trickles down to your individual job role. So first of all, know that your role is important to the board, like genuinely important. Otherwise, you would not be there. Like, you're not gonna be there. People don't hire people just to have people crunching. You think you're crunching small numbers here and there, or you're running a report here and there, but genuinely, that report means something. So first of all, understand what your role means to the board. What does it mean to the CEO?
Wow.
Once you understand that, you're
Yes.
able to understand why your manager is directing you in the way that they are. What's their motivations? Where
Wow.
do they want to go?
Yeah.
And you're going to be able to map out where you kind of focus. Some
Yeah.
people work so hard on
Yes.
things that are not necessary. Your manager doesn't
Wow.
care. Your manager genuinely does not care. Come in
Wow.
as early as you like. But at the end of the day, if those things are not being achieved, if they're not seeing the numbers that they need to see, if they're not seeing I don't know, if you work in marketing, if they're not seeing the artwork produced, if you're not working with the right sort of influencers, if you're not doing
Yes.
what you need to do,
Yeah.
and matching in that, it's not about the amount of effort you're putting in. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, it's
Yeah.
about if you're hitting that mark. At the end of when it
Mm.
comes, okay, when you're able to understand that you are sat in a structure and you're genuinely important
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
that structure,
Yeah.
I think you're then able to ask the question to your manager, to your manager's manager, because sometimes your manager can't answer this question. Sometimes you have to ask your manager's manager, what do you want to see from me? This is your new job. What do you want to see from me in 6 months? What do you want for me to have achieved, and how does that affect you? How will that affect this department as a whole? That
Yeah.
question alone will make them want, okay, you
Tell
obviously
us
want
that
to
again then. Tell us that again. Guys,
navigate.
grab your pen and paper, guys, because I know you're watching on your phone. So grab your pen and paper. Tell us that again.
What do you want me to achieve in the next 6 months? And how does that affect us as a department? So that again will help you understand what you've read in the CEO's letter at the beginning of the year. Because you might read that and you're like, okay, so they want to grow here, they want to have more offices in Singapore, and okay, fine, cool. But once you know that actually the work that I do here actually helps build revenue for what we're going to do in Singapore, that matters. And it will make you focus in a certain way when it comes to your work. And you're able to fully establish what the importance is. And it motivates you as well. You know what you're doing. You know where you fit in this ecosystem. And especially if you're not an entrepreneur, because not everyone is, and I know there's all this push and everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Okay, it's not for everyone, but like if you're not, and you are going to fit in this ecosystem, at least know that your position is of high value. Your skill is of high value. Not everyone has your skill. You're hired for a reason, and that CEO, that board member knows the reason you're there. Have that in your mind. Know that's the reason you're there. I think that alone will give you the vigor to move forward in what you're doing, and know when you're worthy of a promotion, because you know you've hit that target. You know, even if it wasn't even necessarily written down, you know.
No, that's massive. No, that's so important. That gives a kind of a vision and a real direction to your role and your job every day. You've got something to really direct it to. You're not shooting in the dark as to are you being successful or not. I think that's really, really important. And it's interesting what you said about that push, that entrepreneurship push. You know, for me personally, I wish like the friends I have are very good employees. And sometimes when I say that, I think they might think, because entrepreneurship has been put on a pedestal, they think that I'm mocking, or I'm powering them off. I'm not. Like literally, I would love nothing better than to just be able to go to a 9 to 5 that I love and just be a good employee, right? But I think it takes a certain, I don't know. I think certain skill sets suit, you know, that idea, that role better. What do you think are the key, whatever the key skills are? I don't have them, so just enlighten me. What are the key skills that makes a good employee?
That's a very vast question, because there's so many different types of employees. Like,
because
I
one
don't
thing
know
I'm
if I'll be
thinking
able
is
to
just
answer that. I'm not gonna lie.
All right, cool. Well, one thing I'm thinking. Let me tell you a little bit about what I'm thinking. Because you said for what you said, you know, the idea of there's certain level of courage that an employee going into a job would need to have to be able to even say to their boss or their manager, like, okay, you know, how does that, even that initial question that we spoke about, like, how does
Yeah.
my role, you know, fit into
Fit.
this, or how would you know? And that in itself can be hard to articulate because there's so much, I feel like there's a lot of fear in the job space. I'll be honest with you. I feel like there's fear of, well, you don't lose your job. That's fundamentally what it comes down to a lot of the time. When you're an employee, you don't want to lose your job. And this is one thing I think I would encourage everyone to try and do something entrepreneurial, only because 99% of the things you do as an entrepreneur fail. So so you become agnostic to failure. It's like it's just so normal, right? From my experience, it's just so normal to fail in entrepreneurship that it doesn't resonate in the same way, because you feel as though you're just one step closer. But when you're an employee and that's kind of all you've done, in kind of all that's been your journey, like the worst thing that could happen a lot of the times is you lose your job, right? You think like so there's this fear of, if I lose my job, then my kids will starve. Then, do you know what I mean? You play out all these bigger pictures in your mind of what's going to happen. So how can we then, because I don't feel like you approach your job with any fear. Is that because you have a sense of, you know, your skill set, you know what you bring, and how can we kind of approach our job with a little bit more fearlessness, so we can even do just what you said of asking those questions?
You know what's interesting? One thing that I see appearing on a lot of job specs recently, and I've asked a few hiring managers, what do you mean by that? Especially, not so much in the developer space, doesn't come up as much, but a few jobs that I've been doing slightly outside of that in tech companies, but like other roles, is an entrepreneurial spirit, or an entrepreneurial mind. And I've asked what that means, and a lot of the time, people that see their job as a service rather than like they're giving to you.
Okay.
So say what I do as a recruiter, right? If I view it as a service, even if I'm internal, like, okay, well, I have a certain skill set, I have knowledge around developers, I'm joining a tech company, no one else in this company has that knowledge, so I build a brand around that, a personal brand around that. I research that, I build that. I don't just sit on the knowledge that I have now. It's like, okay, I've gone to school, I've done a little bit of research, I know a few candidates. Okay, cool. I can do this to a point. There's that continuous development in the same way that you would if you had a business.
Right. Gotcha. Right.
The reason why I would say not everyone is going to be a business owner is because not everyone wants to be. But in terms of the actual mindset that you have to have in terms of being a really good employee, and when I say that, I mean highly employable.
Right.
Sitting in the company and doing the work, a lot of people can do that.
Yeah.
To be honest. Yeah. But being able to leave a job and jump into another job in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Highly employable.
Yeah.
Is having that mindset of, even though I was in this job and I didn't know I was going to lose it, I didn't know what was going to happen, I didn't know COVID was going to happen, I didn't know all of this.
Yeah.
I was always retraining. I was always relearning, because I see myself as somewhat of a consultant. Even though you're not in a consultative way, it's like I have a thorough understanding of what I'm doing. I want to continue. I'm interested in it.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between a career and a job.
Yeah. Gotcha.
When you're able to really build something out.
Yeah.
And that's why you do tend to find that people that actually have a career do end up doing a little thing on the side, because they realize that the skill set that they've cultivated is genuinely unique and specialized.
Yeah.
So they've carried on learning. And even if you look at these professional courses like ACCA, CMA, that they genuinely require you to keep learning.
Wow.
You have to keep learning. You have to keep building something and making something unique about yourself.
Yeah.
And doing project work, doing more reading. You're never, if you want to achieve and you want to be able to move from job to job and do what you want to do and meet great people, learn. Just keep on learning. That's what makes a great employee. Wow. Someone that's always learning, always wants to put their hand to something new.
Yeah. And
if you're in a company that doesn't encourage that, they're not a good company.
Yeah. Now you've come back to this a few times. You come back to this ruthless approach of like, boy, like if they're not going to do that, just leave. Like, how are you so kind of like so sure that, you know, in the long run, these type of companies are not the companies for you? And when other people are going, well, you know, they're still paying me, and like, you know, I can just keep getting my check, and if I'm really quiet here in the corner, they won't even know I'm here. I just need to get paid. And you're like saying, no, they're not doing this, leave. They're not doing that, leave. Like,
it depends on what you want.
Right.
If you just want a paycheck, and that's genuinely fine.
Yeah.
If you're fine to get your 30, 40K and do your
40
work,
hours a week. Yeah.
do what you got to do. And some
Yeah.
people are genuinely fine with that. And
Yeah.
if you're really good at like gelling, like being best friends with your manager, going out to the pub, being really like friendly,
One of
knowing
the
everyone's
lads, one of the
business, you
girls.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
like you'll be fine. Just
Yeah.
keep on doing what you got to do. And if people like you, you're gonna be good. Like genuinely, you'll be fine.
That's so interesting.
I always say people buy from people. Everything you do in this world is selling.
Yeah.
So if they like you, they'll buy from you. The product that you're providing, again, you are providing a service, so you can just keep plodding along, you'll be fine. If you want to build, if you want to mentor, if you want to be a specialist within your space, if you want to give a TED talk, if you want to be that person within your space, you need to understand that you need to be with a company that also wants you to do that.
Yeah.
If you're going to continue to be an employee,
Yeah.
you need to be with a company that wants to have employees that do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on that note, before you go on that note, no, that's a good point. On that note, I want to ask you about that idea of how have you seen, from your perspective, how have you seen the organizations that you have worked with, how well are they embracing this idea of your personal brand? Or because I've heard in some places it's something that they don't really support, like they don't want you to have too much online, really. They just how have you seen that? There are some organizations I've seen who are quite embracing of it, because they understand that if you've got a team of kind of micro influencers almost, then if you've got actually a good product in as part of their stream of things they're talking about online, your organization would naturally come up in that. But have you found that organizations are more veering towards, oh no, we don't want them to have too much of a following, we don't want them to be too much themselves online, we'd rather have someone with, you know, less of that? Have you seen some organizations really embrace it and be like, you know, this could be huge for us, this person's followed by 5,000 people, they're always positive, or they've got a following of you know, 60% female, and our next product is for women? Like, have you seen companies thinking a bit more intelligently about how to harness the personal brands of their employees?
My view on this will be very one-sided, because I come from a sales background.
Okay.
And salespeople are out there.
Yeah.
I've worked in sales and marketing teams for the majority of my career.
Okay.
So my social, especially LinkedIn, that side of things was very much encouraged. Okay. When I started Amplify, with the current company I was with, which I left with a smile, everyone was smiling. That was a lovely company to work with, and they really encouraged me and supported me in whatever I decided to do. They loved Amplify. They loved what I was doing, and they loved that I was passionate about it. They also knew how it could help me from a recruitment perspective.
Wow.
So it was like, that's completely fine. Do what you got to do, but I worked for a company that selling point was diversity and inclusion.
Right.
So the fact that I had a particular interest in diversity and inclusion and decided to build a brand of that, great, do it. Especially considering that they were not serving the race side, they were serving the sex side of things, or the gender side of things.
Fine.
So that was like something that Jewel as a consultant can offer, and there was no sort of threat to try and take that over, because that's also
Fine.
something that some companies can do.
Okay. They can say they
Anything
own
that
it.
you create under their employment can, depending on the company, be taken over by your company. So
Wow.
you have to be careful, check your contract
Wow.
when it comes to stuff like that.
Wow.
And also check your contract, but also look at what people have done throughout the years and stuff. Ask some people that you trust, has anyone done anything like this? How's it
Yes.
gone? How's it like actually been taken by like senior management?
Yeah.
And if you're given the go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
In terms of there's certain jobs which it will matter, or certain areas of work where it will matter what you put online. So
Yeah.
say you're working within government, the Home Office or Ministry of Defence, blah blah.
Yeah.
Obviously, maybe put your stuff in private. I'm not gonna lie. Just because of the sensitivity of the things that you're working with and working on. But I do think that more, for example, like fintech companies, companies that are a little bit more in the know-how of new, aren't going to care too much, as long as you haven't said anything racist or homophobic or whatever. You'll be fine. It's more, you have to worry more about that kind of stuff when it comes to more traditional companies like, like IBM, Lloyd's, Santander, that kind of thing, more traditional businesses. But
cool. All right, perfect segue. Tell us about Amplified. Tell us what you've done there.
So Amplify is a Black networking group, as I mentioned earlier, and I've had my first event that happened a few months back now.
Woo-hoo.
Like in the middle of lockdown, and that was called Your Story. Essentially, it was a group of around, I think it was like nearly 30 people.
Wow.
Came together and told their professional stories. We've had some really interesting people, all Black professionals, and my main reason for wanting to do something like this was recognizing my own privilege in a way. So if we look at the way that the UK works, you've got race and you've got class.
Yes.
Wealth matters. We've got the education of your parents matter. And I am fortunate enough, and although my parents were both immigrants, they're both educated to master's level. They both have professional qualifications underneath their belt. They own their own home. Like think those little things allow you to have entry points that you wouldn't have had if you didn't have those things. If that doesn't make sense. So I got work experience easy. I got to learn about Excel easy. My mother's a CFO. My dad's an accountant. It's it's like it was all like whatever. And Black people, they're successful. Of course they are. I see it all the time. My parents are successful. And then if I look at my family, everyone's in tech and finance. It's like
what's the problem?
What's the problem? What's everyone talking about? But I realized that I'm actually a minority within a minority. And not everyone gets that. And I am used as that example of like, well, she made it.
Wow.
Like she's able to do that. And I don't no, excuse me. Not going to use me.
I'm not your guru. I'm not your guru, babe. Not me, geese.
So my main thing was I want to be able to create access that I had for other people. Wow. I want them to be able to have access to successful Black people that are doing well, that can give them advice, that can let's have our own boys club. Let's have our own tap on the shoulder. At the end of the day, especially when you start to get a little bit more senior, which is where Black people tend to be floating. That's when you need to know people. And over my career, I don't want to name drop, but I've met some cool people.
Drop them names.
No, I'm not going to. But I've met some cool people working for some amazing companies. One person I will mention is the CCO of Ghana International Bank as a Gambian.
Nice.
And I got to meet him while I was in sales. He's an amazing man, truly an inspiration. I'm really trying to get him to become a mentor for for Amplify. He's very
Awesome.
busy though. But like knowing people and
Yeah.
getting to that, have that visibility.
Mm.
Imagine if I get him to be a mentor
Yeah.
to a young boy or girl looking to get into tech.
Yeah.
That's
Huge.
fantastic.
That's huge.
So like those
Game
are the
changer.
kind of things that I want to do. There's so much more, like workshops for parents, so they know what to actually ask when they go to school, when they go to these parents evenings, to really establish where their kid is. And if their teacher is saying actually no, they're not going to be able to achieve, what are the things that you can do? Because when I say, okay, obviously I'm sitting here, law degree underneath my belt. If you ask my parents if I was able to read properly at the age of 8, if I can spell,
Wow.
if I can do math, and it all comes down to parents having the access to tutors, happening to know people that could sit with me week after week after week.
Wow,
Like,
that's huge.
And it's when I think about it, and I genuinely think, like, Jewel, you've been blessed because your natural abilities, it wasn't hitting it. I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't quite there. And there's kids that are so much more intelligent than me that won't get to see places or meet people or be in the places that I've managed to be at a young age, simply because they didn't have access.
Wow.
And like that's what inspired me to do Amplify. And I've got things in the work. I know I've been a little bit dormant for a little bit, but I am working on things.
Gus is giving me jokes.
Still struggles, yes. Okay. Yeah. There are. He's not lying. I can't read. Genuinely, I can't read.
You're doing all right, mate. You're doing all right. Oh gosh, that's too funny. So no, this platform sounds amazing. And what was it? The lockdown, kind of the period that you had, I guess we all had, to be, in our homes. Did you work? Was you working throughout?
I was a fellow. Again, nice. I was chilling. And again, these are the things where it's like you realize it's because there's so many different things that have been put in place that allows you to be in the position that you're in. And genuinely, I was saving money. I was going, like, I was genuinely enjoying life. Well, some people were genuinely struggling, and it's so sad. But I think my main thing was going to a Black Lives Matter protest. And realizing, that's where I realized the privilege. And I was with a group of my friends, and all like university educated, and our parents are like, and it was like we were like observing people. And to be honest, the conversation was snobbish. Really, it was very like the way that people are articulating themselves is a bit. The speeches are a bit like, it's a bit. I just don't really know. And I thought about it, and I was taking part in this conversation, to be honest with myself. And I thought about it afterwards, and I was like, Jewel, those people haven't had the access that you've had. So instead of just talking rubbish in a corner, acting like you're better than people, do something about it. If you're seeing failings within your community, do something. Black people love to chat rubbish, just talking. When it comes down to recognizing what you genuinely can do, nobody wants to do it. They feel like it's the white man to come and pick us all up. No, but no one's gonna come and pick you up. No one cares.
No one's coming to you.
Don't care. And we can do all of this. We can do all of this diversity stuff. We can push it. We can cry. We can scream. We can say that we deserve more and we want more, but we're in the white man's country at the end of the day.
Ooh,
we're not back home. You're not in Africa. You're not in the Caribbean.
Oh, it's getting a bit techie. Oh.
I'm not going to turn around and say that we can fix racism. We can't. It's white people's problem. They're the racist ones. No, it's not got much to do with us. However, when it comes to trying to rebuild our own communities and creating something, we need to stop talking. I think it was recently someone said that the Birkin bag is, I know this is a really annoying topic, but the Birkin bag has lost value. Why? Because Black women are holding it. Do you know how mad that is? And it's Black people saying stuff like that. That's what we've got to think about. We've got to think about. Because once we stop talking about ourselves and ridiculing everything we do and looking at our own cultures as ghetto and low class and realizing that at the end of the day, a lot of the things that we bring to the table are the things of real value that are being mimicked, being 100%. Copied.
100.
We'll start to go through the proper courses and go through the proper ways to ensure that we are able to profit off our ideas and we're able to build off our own communities and our own creativity. So at the end of the day, have you had there's a Black recruitment company, basically, like BYP. I think that's what it's called.
I've seen it on Insta.
She, the CEO of that, being able to essentially sit on the problem of a lack of diversity and make money off it. Good for you. Good for you. Nigerian girl. Good for you. You know how to make money. Good. Like, at the end of the day, begging for change when it comes to this stuff. Create the solution to it. And we have the resources to do that. We have the resources within our companies. We have the resources within our friends. Support each other. Be there for each other. If Boohoo and Misguided mess up your order, all you do is write an email. If that Black company messes up your order, you're screaming and shouting and say that you're never going to order for them again. I'm going on a bit of a rant now. But...
It's true. It's true, and it's important. And I think all these conversations kind of collide at this point, and over the month, the conversations we've been having, it collides in this moment of what can we do, what should we do, and how can we galvanize around one another? Because I do think that there is this. I feel like for some of us, we're still not quite sure if we deserve it, if we are worthy, if we should go and do it. And so our energies do go more towards trying to be accepted by white people, basically, and white organizations, and a lot of energy goes into that. I had the last organization I worked in, so I've never really worked in a full-time capacity. I've always been a freelancer or self-employed, actually, since I left uni. But over COVID, I happened to have a 6-month contract with an organization, and over the whole George Floyd bits and the George Floyd murder and all the subsequent racial tensions and protests and all of that, we started to have conversations within the organization. And I remember they were asking like about our experience as Black people. There's only about 8 of us in the company. There's about 100 people in the company. About 8 of us were Black. And they brought us together and we had like a little conversation. And they were asking us about our experiences in the organization, that have we had any experiences of, microaggressions or blah, 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 blah. And I just remember one of the first days I was in there, my line manager was a Black girl. And I remember, I think it was probably my first week I was there. Well, we was only in the office for a week before we all went home. But I remember she came in, she always dressed nice, did her hair nice, usual thing, we look fleeky. And she came in one day and I think she had either a straightened wig or straightened her hair. I can't remember which one it was. And but she looked normal, like just normal clothes, like whatever. And she came in and some of the team were like, "Oh, you look so professional today." And the only thing that had changed, as far as I was concerned, was the last couple of days, she didn't have this, I think it was a wig, like she didn't have this straight wig on, right? And I just say that as an example of saying, because when we actually spoke about this, she was like, "Do you know what, Luke? That didn't even resonate with me when they said that." And she said, and I'm concerned with myself because I'm thinking, I've become so acclimated and accustomed to this that it doesn't even resonate anymore. And that's kind of, so that's a long-winded way of saying, have we gone too far down that rabbit hole of just fitting in, really, and just trying to make it through their door, that it's so hard to pull it back and start saying, do you know what? Forget their door. Like, we're going to build our own door over here.
Anti-blackness is rampant within our souls and minds, our communities. From parents telling kids not to spend too much time out in the sun, to straightening your hair when you're really, really young, to not allowing your son to braid his hair because it's considered to be unprofessional. It's heartbreaking, genuinely heartbreaking, because of how easily we let it all slide. And I think once we start to recognize it, because I don't think we should necessarily beat ourselves up about it, because it's been pushed upon us from colonialism and slavery, to want to be part of this community, to want to be accepted. I think everyone has their own stories when it comes down to it, but question everything, question yourself. When you look in the mirror, girls on here, anyone that's on here, when you look in the mirror and you see yourself in your natural state, do you feel just as popping, just as lush in your natural form? I'm not saying without makeup or whatever, because everyone wears that, but the things that are intrinsically black, do you feel confident? And if you don't, force yourself. Just force yourself to do it. Are you uncomfortable with the dark tones of your knuckles? Do you feel some type of way about the curl of your hair that people see is not right to be A? Do you feel like, do you feel some type of way about it? Are you self-conscious? For example, the first time I went into work with a headscarf on, this is something that's intrinsic to my culture. I'm an Ashanti woman. How can I feel some type of way about it? But because it's unusual to them, I feel uncomfortable. No, you have to force yourself. As soon as you feel a little bit of something, do it. Do something you're scared of every day. And that's besides all of this stuff we're talking about. That's just in general. That's just good advice. Like, when it comes down to it, Black women especially address the beauty standards that are pushed against you. Really face them straight on. I'm not saying throw away your wigs and weaves. That again is also part of our culture. Just go down, read a few books. Like, that's also part of our culture. But when it comes down to it, who are you doing it for? Is it because you're popping, or is it because you're trying to fit into a certain mold? At the end, what's your actual intention? And really question yourself when it comes to that. And once you've done that, when people start to say stupid things to you, question that and make them think about what they've actually said. If someone says to you a similar comment to what has been said there, oh, you look really professional today, ask them why. What's different? I'm just the same. I can't see the difference. And make them articulate what they mean. Because a lot of the time, again, this is all systemic. I don't think a lot of people mean to be racist. Genuinely, it's like, I genuinely don't. Like, I feel like sometimes when we're like, there's so much anger, like, it's like, okay, no, let them figure out. Like, actually, a little bit stupid, aren't I? Like, let them figure it out for themselves. Ask the question. Be open to having a dialogue. I'm not saying you need to sit down and give them a history lesson, but allow for them to think for themselves. And when it comes to young Black men and addressing the world around you and the negative stereotypes that people constantly are pushing upon you, and the need to be the joker in the room, the need to be the loud one in the room, the fact that you don't feel like you can just be yourself, again, question it. And question Black women that question your masculinity when it comes to when you're showing your true self. Question them too, because all of this stuff is toxic. It's killing us.
Yeah,
Genuinely
no,
killing us.
facts. So, have you had any experience about that in your career path, or have you had to question some people? Have you had to put people on blast, or have they avoided you because they sense that you're not the one for this?
I was actually put in a situation where an individual said the N-word in my presence.
No.
And I had to ask myself, I genuinely was blaming myself, because I was like, well, there must be something about me that says mug, that says twat right here. Because what about me over the first 2 weeks of getting to know me made you think that that is the way that you should fix your lips to speak to me? So at first I was very, very quiet. And to be fair, I was in a car with her.
Yeah.
And she'd been ever so kind to give me a lift home.
What was she doing? Was she rapping? Or was she singing?
No, so basically she was telling me about her taste in music and how it was quite eclectic, and that she really enjoyed all that, like different kinds of music. And she then went on to describe how she really likes rap music, and she doesn't know why. Like, I'm like, why wouldn't you like rap music? And she's like, yeah, I don't know, I just really like it. You know, that I don't want to swear on here, but like, you know, that black S word, you know, that N word, S word. I was like, wow, you are nuts. And I was just like, this is very crazy. So we're in the car. I just went quiet, and she was talking to me about her girlfriend and blah blah, all the stuff going on with her life. And I'm like, B, I respect you and what you're doing, so I don't really understand what's going on there, but we're going. She gets me to my house. I just very politely said to her, Miss, if you ever say that word in my presence again, we're going to have a serious problem. And that was that. We play music in our office, and my last role, she then repeated the N-word in the office, listening to music where we listen to the radio. It's censored. So you're not singing.
You don't need to say it.
It's not in there.
Yeah.
You're kind of not hearing it. And again, so at that point, I went to our manager and was like, I don't know what she says in her own private quarters with her friends, but it can't be in my space, because if I kick off and lose my job, that's okay. So that's genuinely the conversation that I had with my manager. Like, I genuinely was like, this will be an altercation.
Yeah.
Because I don't.
You told her already.
I told her already, and it ended up it never happened again after that. There was that was the most like dead straight on.
Yeah, that's a biggie. That's huge.
Like, and something I had to deal with. But I think sometimes those are easier to deal with. They make you angry because you think, oh, the audacity. But in terms of like the microaggressions and the little comments here and there, like I remember being asked to twerk by one of my my colleagues, and I was looking at him like, why do you think I can twerk? Like, what makes you think that? He's like, oh, no, you can. I'm like, okay, right. I'm just gonna carry on doing what I'm doing. You can carry on doing what you're doing.
You didn't give him a little,
like, because I think there are points where you're genuinely like, what's going on? Like, is he just a misogynist, or is he a racist, or is he a bundle of both? I don't really have time. Sometimes you don't really have time to figure it out, and you're just like, and to be fair, everyone in the room was like, you're a bit nuts. And so it wasn't like an accepted comment where everyone was like, oh, Jewel, it's just a joke. No. So it wasn't accepted in that kind of way. I had other things where a consultant screamed across the room saying, talking about someone that we're working with, an internal consultant that used to be external, asking someone that's been on a meeting with them, don't you feel like he's a black man that acts like a white man? Which then I did end up asking, like, what did you mean? Like, what do you mean by a black man that acts like a white man? Because there's been black people that have been in this country for their whole lives. Do you not know that? So what does that mean? What's acting white and what's acting black? And it was this whole thing of like, oh, Joel, like, you know, there's a bit of banter. I just don't like him. I'm like, but you're white. Why don't you like him? Like, what's going on? Feel like he's infiltrating on your culture like you do? Every day.
Some appropriation happening here. Is
Oh,
that the problem?
no.
That's too.
And like you make it a bit of a joke, but like
Yeah.
I think when it comes down to it, that's what allows people to think about what they're actually saying.
So, Thomas, these people are really
Oh
Sorry,
God.
Yeah.
But like I've had to deal with things. Obviously, I'm okay with the hair comments now. I think I change my hair every month, whatever. If you think it's growing, if you think it's short, if that's your problem. Like you can't get into your brain that it's extensions. Just relax. It's all right. It doesn't matter anymore.
Wow.
I'm about to join a team filled with black women. I'm so happy.
Oh wow! So yeah, because it's weird, you know. It's just different. Like I've just had such an appreciation for this last month that we've been doing these conversations because, and I have appreciation for everything that has happened this year. You know, it's such, of course, the murder of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, all these individuals. It's a travesty, absolutely disgusting. And with that, I'm so happy with the spaces that have been created for us to kind of talk like this because our culture is so special. Like, and there are so many different cultures to black. Like, we're not just even one monoculture. Like, there are so many different elements to it. But even just being able to just talk about these things, it's been real. It's been a cathartic experience. That's how I felt about it. Like, even to be able to say, you know, I'll be open and honest, even like with this as a church, we're not an only black church, right? And so even the conversation of, okay, is it going to be a bit mad if we're just all about black this month? And I feel like it was almost like, nah, we kind of had that thought, or I had that thought and dismissed it quickly. Whereas in previous years, I might have been more like, you know, we want to be this inclusive space and, you know, we don't want to detract or put people off. But actually this year has been like, nah, this is who we are. Like a lot of us in this organization, that's who we are. As leadership, we're all of color. Like, why? There's nothing wrong celebrating and really praising what we're about is not to the detriment of others. And I know this is a subject that has come up time and time again, and like with the All Lives Matter movement, you know, that's been really hard for them to understand. That a celebration or a recognizing of one group doesn't mean that the other group doesn't matter. And I think as black people, and I've seen it in different ways, we've just been moving into this year, just embracing it a lot more and just doing our thing. And do you think you would have started Amplified if it, is it Amplified or Amplified? Amplify. Would you think you would have started Amplify without all of this hoo-ha that has happened this year? Or do you think really it somehow galvanized your efforts a bit more?
It definitely was a catalyst. So people that know me for a while, especially closely, will know that I've wanted to do an event, like have an events company for a really long time. That's why Amplify will move into different spaces and not just be networking events at some point. I want to create good fun spaces for black people to be in. And initially at uni, I wanted to do like parties. Like I didn't understand that why boys and girls didn't dance together like face to face. So that was my first thing. But yeah, as Gus says, follow the page Amplify Events. But without this happening, I don't know if it would have happened this year. I don't know if I would have had the people around me that have helped me with it be as on it.
Yes.
Because even I mentioned it to my cousin, and one of my friends was here, and she's like, yeah, I was on it. I mentioned it to my cousin. Like, I want to do this. Like, I went to the Black Lives Matter event. I've wanted to do this for a really long time. What do you think? And he's like, I know this guy. He works at Adobe. He's gonna help you. I'm gonna message him. He left the house. 10 minutes later, I got a message from this gentleman on LinkedIn. He was like, we're gonna do this. He helped me from the very beginning to the very end. I've got a meeting with him next weekend to talk through the next event. I met some really cool people over lockdown who have helped me as well. And it's because our minds are focused. We all seem to have a vision.
Yeah.
And I think Gus actually mentioned something earlier in the comments about how important it is to have a vision. And
Yeah.
when you move in one motion with one aim, you're able to achieve so much with so much ease. Like as
Yeah.
much as it was hard. I was nervous with Amplify when it was the first event, but because of all the encouragement and the people around me were like, no, this is needed. It's not going to be ignored. People are going to attend. This is going to be something that people need. It became easy.
Wow.
It became something that I enjoyed doing, and I put in a lot. Like I called every single person I was going to attend. People had to fill out worksheets. I had to look at all of them. I had to match people up to people. It's all very long, but like it was something that came to me easly because I knew that the vision that I had was understood by the people around me, which is something in the Black community that is so rare.
Yeah.
When you bring something forward as a Black person to other Black people, they're like, oh,
yeah.
what's it gonna be?
Yeah.
Like, what's it actually gonna be?
Yeah.
But no, there genuinely is encouragement, and I even thought, because I haven't done an event in a little while, I'm basically rang up a friend of mine who mentors people. And I was like, oh, I know I haven't been around, blah, blah. And he's like, no, you said that you were going to do this, so I believe you.
Wow.
And like everyone around me was like, yeah, you're taking a bit of a while, but it's okay. Like, we know that you're thinking. You're not just like sitting there doing nothing. There's something that you're doing. We're waiting for it.
Yeah.
Which is something that I genuinely don't think would have been the case if I'd done it last year.
Yeah. No, that's huge. That's huge. I even think Instagram are blessing us because literally this call is meant to finish after 1 hour. It's meant to cut us off.
I don't know what's going on.
And for some reason, we noticed it the other day. We're like, hold on. Instagram's giving us a blind. Next thing, we'll get that blue tick, fam. Next thing, we'll have the blue tick. Ooh, ooh. But no, it's interesting. A comment here that Hakuna shared, interesting. I haven't been to church since June because of their response to the BLM resurgence. It's nice to see a church taking a stance. I appreciate that, Hakuna. And I think that, that is something that has been interesting to me. And I wonder what you think of that. It's such a interesting thing because you've seen it from a few different angles. You've seen from the angle of being in probably an organization where they were probably trying to make sense of the best way to speak into this issue, that it was such a cultural moment. You had to say something. Even the organization I was working with at that time, it took them a while to say something, and I was part of I was leading basically the social media, so it was coming back to me. Like, I didn't know what to put out because I had to wait for next levels above to tell me what they want our voice to be. So that even was a bit delayed. But then you've seen it from that perspective, and then you've also seen it from the perspective of a church perspective and talking into that. How do you feel about it? Do you feel like, Hakuna, that maybe it could have been, you would have liked to see more the church taking a lead? Or do you think we just got to be patient with everyone as we all make sense of this moment? I know it's a tricky one, but
again, people that know me then will know that when it comes to church, I'm very much in my own bubble. So I'm very much focused on my church and what my church do. And sometimes I forget. Oh, there you are. And sometimes I forget that other people's churches aren't doing certain things or aren't being served in a certain way. Offensive when people are like, Adventist, da, 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 da. I'm like, no, but blah, blah, blah. But it's because of my own personal experience.
Yeah.
But in my church, so Reading West of the Adventist Church, we did what we wanted to do. So as a youth department, we were like, we're going to talk about this. We invited someone a pastor from the US come and talk about his perspective and what his church is doing. We had good conversations. We had conversations about people's emotions, how they were truly feeling around this time, and it was a great and spirited conversation. And it came up a few times in the different conversations that we had. So I felt like our youth were served to some extent, and felt like at least Reading West Youth Department cared. Okay. In terms of other churches, the SEC, for example, the NEC, blah blah, I don't pay that much attention. Not gonna lie, I'm very much like into my local church and what they can do.
Yeah.
I do know that SEC did a lot of really interesting talks and debates, like understanding the Bible from the Black man's perspective. So the idea that the Christianity is a white man's religion. So having those kind of conversations, I thought they were amazing to have. Really inspiring, really great work. I think Thomas is on here. Well done. He's done really, really well in cultivating those. But I can also understand that the Adventist church has a really racist background. And we've had some really damaging things happen. People that are our parents will be able to speak on white members leaving churches because of the influx of Caribbeans and Africans coming into this country and attending these churches, and they've seen it. Some people will say it doesn't matter, and I think a lot of Africans have that mentality, especially West Africans. They're just like, you know what, we come here, we're gonna do our thing, and then we're gonna go. Who cares what these white people do? But when it actually comes down to it, it affects your children. So it does matter what they do. At the end of the day, I think recognizing the past and recognizing institutions that have hurt people. So there are institutions within the Adventist space that are apologizing for their racist backgrounds and the things that they've done.
And even the Church of England,
don't want to say too many names, but like of the institutions, but they've apologized.
I saw that. It's interesting because even the Church of England, I saw them do a big apology for the past, right? It's just it's so crazy, just the unearthing that has been happening, and I think it's been powerful. I think that a lot of people have felt empowered from our community, have felt empowered in ways that they haven't previously felt empowered by, and I know that. Are you someone who feels that there are issues that we have amongst ourselves that we need to address before we even worry about the systemic nature of racism? Or are you someone who's like, don't try and distract me, like, no, let's deal with this? Because, a lot of people start talking about and getting bogged down with, like, there's, what about black on black crime? What about,
black on black crime isn't a thing, for one thing. Crime tends to happen within people's racial groups. That's just a fact. So black and black crime isn't a thing. White people is like white people, Asians attack Asians, whatever. Genuinely just how crime works. So ignore that. But when it comes to like our own issues as a black community, I feel like they can be addressed at the same time.
Okay.
Because those things are affected by systemic racism and tend to come out due to systemic racism. So if we don't address those things within our own communities, we're literally just screaming for nothing. At the end of the day, I'm sure there are a lot of people who have had black managers that have said the most racist rubbish to them. And it's because we have our own hang-ups, because we're trying to fit in. And we feel like there can only be one. And no, there can't only be one. There's so many Harrys and Bens and Jimmys. So many.
Yeah, but you can't have too many Femis and Kelechis and come on.
You can have plenty,
only
plenty.
one. No?
And to be honest, the Nigerians, they're plenty. There's a lot of them doing nothing, man. They're doing nothing. The rest of us have to worry. But like, I'm joking. But like, when it actually comes down to it, it's important for us to recognize that at the end of the day, we can do a lot within our own communities by just speaking good things into ourselves. Saying kind words. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to your brother. Be kind to your sister. Understand that when that new black person comes into your company, really embrace them. I am speaking to Mr. and Mrs. Kuhn in the company who thinks has been dancing and dancing for master this whole time. Please, I beg, change your ways, like genuinely change your ways. They're not helping you. When you come to middle management and you can't get promotion, it's because of the color of your skin. It doesn't matter how much you dance.
Do you know, louder people, louder people, louder people, man.
But like even from what I do and what I'm hoping to do later on, this is the kind of stuff that I want to address.
Yeah.
From a diversity and inclusion perspective,
Yeah.
because you have a lot of Black people sitting on just below middle management, and they're stuck there. And you have a lot of people that feel like, okay, I'm sitting on my nice 30K, and because it's helping them survive within the world. And honestly, I'm also not trying to salary shame. Whatever money you've got, that's your money. Good on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, a lot of the time, the Black and Asian employees in their companies are providing so much more value for the time that they're putting in, and they 100%. Know if they keep you there, you're gonna keep striving for that small 5% increase. Like, please, I beg, like genuinely, you have to demand for more, and you need to start being the things that they tell us we shouldn't be. The things that you're saying that you're aggressive, saying that you stand out a bit too much, you're a bit too loud.
Yeah.
Ask anyone else outside of your race if their assertiveness has been punished. It hasn't. And when yours is, question it. Yeah. Ask them why. Like, genuinely get them to articulate why they have felt that you moving your hands has made them feel uncomfortable.
Threatened.
Me, look at my face. Look at me. I'm threatened. Me doing this, it threatens you. How? It doesn't. It's you being confident in something that they don't expect to see in those spaces. But keep on, man. We're doing well. One thing I think we don't recognize as people, and this is seeing life through the European gaze, and thinking that you're supposed to be at a certain standard. You know, we've only been really independent by ourselves, doing things by ourselves for 60 years.
Yes.
Look how far we've come in 60 years. People are looking at Africa, looking at the Caribbean, thinking, no, our politicians are this, are that.
Yeah.
How many generations have even passed? People haven't even died. My grandma, still alive, still living, remembers the British Army in Ghana. So how can you come and tell me that we've not progressed, that we've not done things, that we're not moving?
Yeah.
60 years, what's that?
Yeah, it's nothing.
That's nothing. Slavery was for longer. Colonialism was for... Look at the amount of time that these countries had to build themselves, and did they even build it with their own hands? The NHS was dying, and who did they bring?
Yeah. Facts.
Understand your history. Read. And once you understand that, and you're able to fully grasp that you haven't had enough time, you'll stop feeling shame about what's not yet been accomplished.
Yeah.
And rather look to the future, as you guys are saying, Black Future Month. Look to the future and know that the pace in which we're going, the fact that the youth in Nigeria are protesting, again, if they were to ask their parents what they were doing at the time, and people are shaking their heads and they're saying that this is not new.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's being televised and everyone can see what's happening, the fact that we're making changes and we're looking and we're saying that this needs to stop.
Yeah.
We're doing something great. Genuinely, the young people of this generation are doing something marvelous in the corporate space, in civil rights, we're doing great things, genuinely. And don't allow anyone to diminish what we're doing, because it's absolutely fantastic what we're achieving.
Wow.
Genuinely.
Wow.
In the amount of time, it's amazing.
Wow. Boy, on that bombshell, I think that's a perfect place to land the plane, because Instagram wants us to go forever, but I don't want to push them too much. I don't want it to cut out abruptly. But Joel, I just want to say thank you so much for making
It's been
yourself
amazing speaking
available
to
for the
you.
time you spent. Thank you for getting your nails done and your hair did, especially for us. We appreciate it so much. And yeah, no, I just want to say, you know, I hope God blesses your ministry, what you're up to, also your vocationally, what you're doing, and also what you're doing for our community. We appreciate it.
Thank you so
And we
much for
just,
inviting
any
me
way
on.
we can amplify your amplify, then let us know. We're willing to, you know, share our space, share, you know, we want to help you in any way we can.
Thank
Just
you
let
so
us know.
much.
I know you're friends with our content director,
Mhm.
Callie, so
Mhm.
just let her know how we can do that. We'll be willing to do that.
Thank you
So
so
just thank you
much.
so much for your time. Have an amazing weekend, whatever
You
you get up to.
too.
Have an
You
awesome
too.
time. And as I said, reach out to us. We're here to support whatever you're up to.
Thank you. Thank you
All
so
right.
much. Lovely speaking to you.
You too. Blessings.
Bye.
Peace.